There's the Blazer. You all know what we're doing with that. Just got injectors in for the Blazer, actually. Injectors, fuel pump, fuel regulator are all sitting right here. Once we're done painting, we can push that back in. I also got the clutch, flywheel, throw out bearing. Oh, where's the transmission? Right there. So we can actually mate the transmission to the engine and stick it in there. I got the motor mounts on the frame there. Stick it in and start making measurements for a transmission crossmember. hole we made is right size. It might be too tight. Wait. Yeah. Is this right? Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna work. Okay guys, we got the shifter on there, and now let's put the short throw handle on. It's only about 18 inches long. Look at that. We have the quickest shifts of all time. No, but in all seriousness, this is out of the 2005 Silverado that I found at the junkyard. This came with the transmission, so it all works together. Someday we'll put a different shifter on, maybe, unless this one just feels good. It might run into the dash. Let's find out right now. Oh, we're good. That's first. It's under the steering wheel.
Important.
Second, not bad. Third, yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Fourth. Oh, this is upside down. And fifth. Okay. Reverse. Boom.
Boom.
It'll work for now.
It's gonna look great.
Yeah.
Feel great.
Yeah, dude. Look at that. It's right at home. Okay, we'll work on the crossmember now. All right, we're under the truck. Got the back of the transmission, the NV35 5-speed manual. We got a new rubber mount, and we have a stud. As you can see, it doesn't fit on this mount where it sits right now. So we're trying to make modifications. We're gonna use part of this thing. We're basically gonna slide it in here like this. Put it under there. And then jack up the transmission. Okay, it's about as high as we can go. So we need this to slide in there. So we're gonna have to trim it down. And I might actually just cut like this piece out. And then we'll weld it on here and then lower that into it. Here's a better look at what we're doing. We got the crossmember in the vise. And so basically it's just this piece is gonna be welded on right here. We're gonna trim this off. But right now I need to cut into the existing mount so that we have room to get our new nut on the bottom. So that's what we do right now.
If only Mr. Kirk could see us now.
Look at this. That's how you use the whole cutoff wheel all the way down. This is my Lincoln welder, the 140 Easy MIG. I bought it 2 years ago. I think it was like $600. And then I got the cart for like $150 at Harbor Freight. The tank is kind of expensive. You got to put down a $350 deposit, and then you fill it for like $100. And then every time you go back, you just swap your old tank. You get a new tank for $100, fill it up with argon, and it welds really well. I'm super surprised for the price, like how good it is. It's all I need. I'm not a fabricator, but every now and then I gotta weld something. And it's absolutely perfect for the home garage. And it plugs into a normal 120 outlet. So, highly recommend. Welded it in at least a month. What do you think of that bead?
Looks pretty good.
That's all we need. On the Blazer. All right, putting on the O2 sensors. That header's just sitting there. I had to order these collectors because, well, these are supposed to come with them, but I got these used from a guy, so didn't have them, ordered them. Anyways, drilled a hole, and then I ordered these O2 bungs off of eBay, I think it was. Basically, these are really cheap, just a couple bucks, got 2 of them. They're already curved to like fit the pipe. So, put it on there. And then you can even screw the O2 sensor in and make sure it's all gonna fit. I've already done that. So, now I can take it to the welder, weld this thing on, and then I've got O2 sensors. Just another step closer to hearing the engine run. Got the first O2 sensor bung welded on. I didn't do a great job, but there shouldn't be any air leaks. So, now I'll do the second one. And then we can finally install the headers once and for all. So that's what we cut out. Yeah, it might be just enough. Let's find out. Ooh. Probably just take a little bit off the bottom side and we'll be all right. I took off the HVAC box to get in here easier. Yeah, I would recommend leaving this part loose when you put it in. I tightened it up and now my O2 sensor is basically touching the frame. So I gotta loosen those 3 bolts back up. And then I'll hand torque all these. But it's looking good. I slipped the other side in from the bottom. Came right up. Those back 2 bolts are hard to get to. Get a long ratchet wrench for that. And then we'll have O2 sensors, and now we can install the harness. And hopefully finally turn this engine over. I got the wiring harness put on here. As you can see, I'm checking for spark and injector firing. That's how close we are, okay? We got a battery, we got a starter, we got all this stuff hooked together. These go to the dash, basically, cluster, whatever, the key. This is part of the new eBay harness. This is the battery. This is fuel pump off the key, 12 volts off the key. We got the ECM. We got the OBD2 port. We got fuses and relays. This big red wire I ran in here back to the fuel pump. That goes all the way back. This is constant 12 volts with a fuse to the battery for the fuel pump. This is ignition from the key. It actually will crank off the key. Check it out. So close. Right now, I've got 58 PSI fuel pressure. I've tested for spark. I've tested for injector pulse. We've got all that. Yet, when you crank, it doesn't want to start. It will actually shoot flames out the exhaust, but it sounds like timing is not correct. And I have checked timing. I pulled off the front cover, lined up the cam and the crank sprocket. I even put the stock camshaft back in it just to get it to run. So it wasn't trying to run on a lopey cam. But still, no luck. So, that is an eBay harness. I did replace the crank sensor. That didn't work. Didn't do anything. There's 2 crank sensors right here. So, I did get the original harness with this 5.3 Gen 3 drive-by cable motor. And what I'm gonna do is actually make my own harness. And we'll try this old harness and see if maybe the eBay harness is messed up. So let's do it. Got the harness D-pinned and D-wired, labeled all of the other wires that I'm gonna need. Did take me a couple hours, surprisingly, but time was just flying. I was actually having fun doing this. But basically it's ready to go. This is everything that came out of it. Don't need any of that. So it's cool to lighten it up. Currently, since I have an LS1 intake, this is a truck harness, they use different injectors. So what I'm gonna do is run to the junkyard, see if I can find a truck intake Gen 3 that is returnless. Since I'm using a Corvette regulator, I only have one fuel line that comes up to the fuel rail on an LS1 style, okay? This is it. So this doesn't return. It has a return back in the fuel filter. You guys know that. But look at the truck intake. You have a return up here. So I need to find an intake that apparently the 04 to 07 maybe doesn't have a return like this. So if I can find that, snag that fuel rail, I gotta make sure it's all gonna plug in because I wanna fire this thing up today if possible. Let's get to the junkyard. Oh, and look, I found the fuse block. I didn't think I had one. Thought I was gonna have to go buy one from the junkyard, but luckily I had one from when I bought the motor and the harness originally. Always get the fuse block. Out here at the junkyard, and I can't believe it, but I think I found what I need. Let's check it out. One fuel line, returnless, that's what we want, and it's got the correct injectors. At least I think so. If I can figure out how to unplug them. Oh. Yep. That's what we want. Get this baby off, take it home. I got it off. Yeah, this is what we need. I'm back in the garage with the new fuel rail. I took all the injectors out because they wanted to charge me $9 a piece. 9 times 8, you know, that adds up quick. These injectors should be fine. So, we're gonna swap these injectors over to that rail, put it on. Then we gotta take this whole wiring harness off. We're gonna take the LS1 intake off, put the truck intake on, put the new harness that I made, the new used old harness on there, and then we can finally see if this thing will start. Okay, everything fits. And I put on this fitting for my AN fuel line. Luckily I had extra ones. I got all these elbows and stuff. That goes right on there, so my fuel line will screw on. But look at that. One returnless truck intake. And now we can screw this fuel line onto it once we get there. So I'm gonna take it apart. This might take a while. This is what it looks like now. It's a total mess. But I've got everything plugged in that I can plug in right now. Fuse box is plugged in. PCM is plugged in. So we're close. Got the battery hooked up. We got, everything hooked up that I need to hook up. And I watched a video about where to hook up battery to A9. There's like ignition. You heard the fuel pump there. We got pressure. I'm gonna show you guys. Let's just see what it does. You hear that? Thing just explodes and then it stops cranking. It's the same thing it was doing with the other harness. So we've eliminated the eBay harness. That was not the problem. New harness, same problem. Okay, so this is the original crank sensor. I replaced it with an eBay, supposedly AC Delco crank sensor. It didn't even fit right. I had to drill this hole bigger. Well, that didn't work, so I got another crank sensor. I don't really know what else to try right now. If this doesn't work, we're gonna have to get a new PCM and go down that rabbit hole. So let's just try it with this brand standard motor parts, whatever it's called. Got this thing wired up. Here's the
Fuel pump on.
So here's our pressure. I'm gonna prime it a couple times, get it up to 50. For some reason it loses its prime. We'll have to figure that out. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, set that down. See if she'll go.
Come on. Ooh. Little
See a
boom.
flame?
Yeah, little flame.
So I don't have the O2 sensors hooked up or a mass airflow. So it's not gonna be happy, but I don't know, let's try it again. Wow!
There-
Sounds great. It finally runs. It was a crank sensor. Don't buy cheap crank sensors. Don't buy eBay sensors. They're bad.
What a waste of time.
Yeah, get a name brand sensor. This isn't even GM, but you know, you recognize this at the auto parts store. So,
Out of control.
all right, let's go. Well, it runs. What was the issue? The crank sensor. And I had already replaced the crank sensor with what I thought was an AC Delco brand crank sensor that I bought on eBay, but it was cheap. So I thought I had ruled that out. Moved on to a bunch of other things. Made this harness. Put a truck intake on it. I finally bought another crank sensor just because I was buying a cam sensor. Like, oh, I'll just get them both. Put the cam sensor in, didn't do anything. Put the crank sensor in, and you just saw it. It fired up immediately. That was the issue the whole time. I thought I had ruled it out, but it was still a bad crank sensor. So beware when you're buying cheap parts, and I love to buy cheap stuff, I'll admit it. But man, it can really bite you, and it can really make diag very difficult. You think you've ruled it out, but it's still a problem. And so that's a prime example right there of buying the cheap stuff, thinking that you're saving money and you're getting ahead, and all it did was put me behind. But man, I'm so happy now hearing this thing run. It's my birthday. That's a great birthday present. And man, I'm gonna sleep good tonight. And tomorrow I think I'm gonna work on this again because I want to drive this thing. I'm gonna put the LS1 intake back on, put the eBay harness back on, see if that works, because that's already cleaned up. That'll just streamline this process so I don't have to mess with a bunch of wiring. And then we can finally move on to accessories, water pump, radiator, all that stuff. I want to hear it one more time. Finally, it runs. Sounds good. Hitting on all 8, I think. See you next time.